11-year-old Kotoko Iwanaga is kidnapped by a youkai and asked to become goddess of wisdom. 6 years later she visits Kurou Sakuragawa, a man whose life she previously saved and fell in love with, despite his having a girlfriend, Saki Yumihara. She kept track of him for 2 years until the present day, when Saki breaks off their engagement. Kotoko immediately asks to date him. Kurou explains Saki broke up with him after they saw a kappa and he ran like a coward. Kotoko calls him out on the lie, suggesting it was the kappa, but ran scared from Kurou, causing Saki to realize Kurou is dangerous. Kotoko reveals most yokai are terrified of Kurou. When Kurou demands to know who she is, she explains her job to settle all arguments between yokai, and she shows him that her right eye and left leg are both prosthetic, the cost of becoming a goddess. As she leaves, Achimusa, a deceased samurai, informs her Bull Akashi is infesting the library. She asks Kurou to help with the Akashi, to prove she is a goddess. However, the Akashi has gone mad and refuses to listen to her. Kurou fearlessly allows the Akashi to sever and eat his arm, but to Kotoko's surprise his arm completely regenerates, and the Akashi melts and dies. Kurou explains that when he was 11 he ate 2 yokai. As Kurou visits his cousin, a long-term hospital patient, he tells Kotoko he ate mermaid flesh, which should have made him immortal, but the second yokai he ate reduced the immortality to a powerful healing ability, though does not reveal what the second yokai was. He also reveals his flesh has become poisonous to yokai. Kotoko asks him to visit a giant snake mountain guardian, but he refuses. Kotoko visits the snake alone, not knowing Kurou followed and is watching. The snake is confused that a woman, tenuous Aoi, dumped the body of Yashihara Haru in the lake, yet the snake clearly heard her wish the body be found quickly. Kotoko reasons Tenuous wanted the snake, not police, to find the body and eat it, but the snake is unsatisfied with this explanation. Kotoko explains from the police report that Tenuous' boyfriend, Mechi Yoshikazu, committed suicide after being caught embezzling, but 2 years later Yashihara confessed he embezzled the money, and murdered Mechi to cover it up. Kotoko believes Tenuous is actually protecting Mechi's brother, who really stabbed Yashihara, and she dumped the body as an offering to the snake, a former water god, hoping it would rain, and wash away evidence. Kurou reveals himself, questioning why Kotoko keeps referring to him as her boyfriend. Confused by all the theories, the snake demands to know the real reason Tenuous dumped the body. Kotoko finally explains Tenuous was actually wishing the police would find something she hid in the swamp years before, and use the body to get police to search the right area. Tenuous had been pregnant when she heard Mechi committed suicide, and after miscarrying she angrily threw the fetus into the lake. After learning Mechi had been framed, she desperately wanted to give the fetus a real funeral. The snake accepts this explanation, and as they leave Kotoko explains to Kurou that she simply gave the snake the most likely explanation. 2 years later, Steel Lady Nanis, the ghost of teen idol Nanis Kirin, causes a car crash. Policewoman Saki Yumihara, Kurou's ex, now suffering from depression, investigates the crash, and is told that someone may be dressing as Nanis to commit crimes. She believes Nanis is real as thanks to Kurou she knows yokai exist. On her way home she meets Kotoko, who is trying to defeat Nanis. Tired of being afraid, Saki tries to defeat Nanis herself, but is unable as she is human. Kotoko's prosthetic leg comes loose just as Nanis runs away. Kotoko advises Saki to forget everything, but Saki tries to take her to the police station to get an explanation about Nanis's other attacks. Kotoko realizes Saki is Kurou's ex, and introduces herself as Kurou's current girlfriend, which irritates Saki. Saki becomes convinced Kotoko is a stalker Kurou can't get rid of. Saki defends her decision to leave Kurou after Kotoko agrees that Kurou can't be classed as human. After seeing how violent Nanis was, Saki is convinced she will soon commit murder. Kotoko reluctantly admits Kurou has been missing for a week, which causes a petty argument about which of them would actually be a better girlfriend for Kurou. After Kotoko leaves, Saki begins investigating Nanis and finds that her father died in an accident, but evidence was later found suggesting Nanis killed him. Trying to avoid the media, Nanis stopped taking on idol work and started living in several hotels. The idea that society turned against her based on rumors leads Saki to believe she may have returned as a vengeful spirit. Kotoko is suspicious as Nanis felt less like an angry spirit than a hollow puppet taking orders and realizes she needs information only police can provide. Saki's research reveals Nanis was found on a construction site, face crushed by a steel beam in an accident, yet a statement taken from Karen, Nanis's older sister, worries Saki. Saki is visited by a tree spear sent by Kotoko to ask for information about Nanis's death, with the implication she will keep sending yokai to bug her until she agrees. Meanwhile, Kotoko heads to the latest sighting of Nanis, and finds her in a violent fight with Kurou. Kotoko watches Kurou before Saki arrives in time to see Nanis crush Kurou's head, only for it to regrow. Saki is concerned, but Kurou still seems unconcerned. Kurou approaches Nanis, dodges her attack and restrains her. Saki is confused as his dodge looked perfectly timed. Kotoko reveals the second yokai Kurou ate was a Kuden, allowing him to predict future events. 10 generations ago, the head of Kurou's family forced his relatives to eat kuden to gain prophetic powers and mermaid flesh, so they would not die after seeing the future, but even more people died and the experiments were abandoned. Kurou's grandmother repeated the experiment on him and was successful, but Kurou became inhuman, and Saki watches as Kurou breaks Nanis's neck, which only scares her more. Nanis recovers, so Kotoko stops the fight and Nanis disappears. While talking to Saki, Kurou is happy to see her, and admits Kotoko is his current girlfriend. Kotoko reveals that to Yokai Kurou has the monstrous mixed appearance of a human, mermaid, and kuden, which makes Nanis's not fearing him even stranger. Kotoko believes Nanis was created by the imaginations of millions of people, fueled by a website dedicated to Nanis, giving her the energy needed to manifest as a powerful physical spirit. Since Nanis was created by people's imaginations, they must use the website to defeat imagination. Saki suggests shutting down the site, but that would be too legally complicated. Kotoko suggests creating another explanation for Nanis to draw people's attention onto the new story, causing her to disappear. Saki unwillingly provides more details about Nanis. Police deemed it likely she committed suicide, but eventually called it an accident. Nanis's sister, Hitsumi, always refused to believe Nanis was suicidal, yet still blamed Nanis for their father's death, but had an alibi. At the crime scene, Kotoko summons the spirit of a deceased construction worker, terrifying Saki. The worker reveals the beams fell by accident, but Nanis did nothing to save herself, essentially committing suicide. Saki disagrees with Kotoko's methods as it doesn't let police know the truth, and any alternate story is unlikely to be believed. Kotoko decides to use Kurou's future predictions to find the right story, and Kurou agrees, despite it requiring him to die and resurrect. In the past, Kurou had explained that kudens don't predict the future, they select a future from limitless possibilities, and make it come true, the effort of which kills them. Kurou must let Nanis kill him again, and while dead must manage to select a future in which they defeat her. Sergeant Terada Takunusuke, one of Saki's co-workers, confronts Nanis believing her to be a criminal in a costume, and is murdered. Saki is forced to lie about her whereabouts during Terada's murder, while the media link his death to Nanis, fueling the rumors. Saki decides to help Kotoko to avenge Terada. Kotoko warns Kurou that his hospitalized cousin, Rika, is undoubtedly involved, and Kurou admits he cannot defend her anymore now Nanis has committed murder. Saki arrives and is told that due to another new rumor spreading online, Nanis will likely begin chasing victims, rather than let them escape, and it will be even more difficult for Kurou to choose an acceptable future. In order to come up with a better story, Kotoko demands the truth from Saki at all times. They struggle to come up with a fake culprit for Nanis's attacks and Terada's murder that are believable enough, until Kurou suggests spreading multiple rumors online and allowing internet users to create the fake culprit for them, while he can keep Nanis busy by letting her keep killing him and choosing new futures. With a plan in place, Kotoko passes out from lack of sleep, while Kurou waits with Saki for Nanis to appear in the city. Saki decides to go with him, determined to get past her fear of yokai. While discussing his relationship with Kotoko, Saki mentions Rika, who she thought would be more Kurou's type, recalling that she was beautiful and physically weak with very pale skin. Saki remembers Rika having an unnatural aura, and overheard nurses mention that Rika tried to kill herself multiple times. Kurou reveals Rika is not dead, as she was also forced to consume yokai flesh, and is unable to die. Kotoko wakes up from her nap, and worries something drastic happened between Kurou and Saki as they are acting awkward. After expressing curiosity, Kotoko tells Saki Rika entered the hospital to have her abilities medically analyzed, but had been living at Kotoko's mansion since being suddenly discharged, and unsuccessfully trying to move in with Kurou. Kotoko claims they got on well with Rika until she moved out of the mansion and disappeared a month previously. Then Kurou disappeared 2 weeks later until Kotoko and Saki found him fighting Nanis. Saki deduces Rika somehow created Nanis and Kurou has been trying to stop her, and Kotoko reveals the online image of Nanis was actually one of Rika's paintings. Kotoko suspects Rika has been experimenting to see how powerful her ability to choose futures can be. Nanis appears in the city, while elsewhere Rika kills herself to choose another future. Kurou begins to fight Nanis, while Kotoko begins spreading rumors online, hoping to cause enough doubt in the online community that Nanis will be rendered powerless. Rika resurrects and watches events unfold online. Kotoko spreads the rumor a murderer planned to kill Detective Terada all along, and made the Nanis urban legend more popular before the murder to confuse the police. Even dressing as Nanis to attack people, and make the legend more believable, so that when Terada died, Nanis would be blamed, instead of the actual killer. As Kurou continues to fight, Kotoko begins arguing with internet users online, spreading her fake story, providing reasonable answers to all their questions. In the end, she puts all her theories together, and begins a rumor the killer was a female police officer who worked with Terada at the same police station. Saki angrily notices the rumor basically describes her, and Kotoko admits she did base the rumor on Saki so as to potentially spare other innocent suspects. The internet users suddenly begin arguing again, and Saki and Kotoko realize Rika must be forcing other futures to come true as well as posting online herself. Kurou is killed twice more and finds that certain futures have now been cut off due to Rika's interference. He resurrects and manages to disarm Nanis of her weapon, proving she is slowly growing weaker. Kotoko reveals she has multiple rumors prepared and begins spreading her second rumor. Kotoko spreads the idea that Nanis actually is a ghost who regretted being accused of murdering her father and is trying to convince people of her innocence. Kotoko reveals Nanis's father left a note saying he suspected Nanis wanted to kill him and guesses he was jealous of her success, so he killed himself in a way Nanis would be blamed. Kotoko then claims Nanis met her father in heaven and he told her why he did it, causing her to become a vengeful spirit. She implores everyone online to send Nanis prayers so she can move on. Kurou dies again and manages to grasp a weak strand of a possible future. The prayers weaken Nanis considerably, but Rika regains partial control and people start to question Nanis's behavior. Rika kills herself again, while Kotoko prepares her third rumor, Nanis is alive. As her sister Hatsumi frequently claimed Nanis would never kill herself, she wonders if Nanis is actually dead at all, and whether the body was somebody else, with the face smashed to hide her identity. If it was Hatsumi who spread the rumor Nanis killed their father, she must have wondered if Nanis faked her death as revenge against her. It is therefore possible someone began faking Nanis's ghost to convince Hatsumi Nanis is actually dead, most likely a stalker who killed Terada after being caught in his Nanis costume. This backfires when Rika points out faking Nanis's ghost is more likely to scare Hatsumi even more, causing Kurou to lose the future he was trying to grasp. With the third rumor disproved, Rika moves on to other futures, so Kotoko springs her trap and returns to the idea Nanis's sister leaked the rumor Nanis killed their father. Saki realizes Kotoko had expertly manipulated Rika into selecting futures she wanted, and a future Kurou thought had disappeared suddenly becomes available again. Kotoko claims Nanis is still alive and faked her death by substituting the corpse of the girl she murdered and smashed her face to hide her identity, then assumed the girl's identity in order to begin a new life, and meanwhile created the story of Steel Lady Nanis to convince people she had really died. This new rumor throws the internet into chaos as theories fly back and forth, this time about how Nanis is definitely not real. Rika loses her grip of a possible future as Nanis weakens considerably. Kotoko finishes her plan by claiming Nanis herself created the Nanis website and murdered Terada. She then challenges the website's creator, Rika, to somehow prove she is not Nanis. Unable to do so, Rika completely loses control of the future. Kotoko declares her victory as the internet decides Nanis is alive and not a ghost. Kurou selects a final future and strikes a final blow on Nanis by smashing her face with her own steel beam. Rika emails Kotoko, congratulating her on her victory but promising to return. Kotoko worries Rika may try again, reasoning that due to the limitless potential of the human imagination, it may be possible to create anything, even a new god. The next day Saki discovers the Nanis website is shut down, and the internet users refocus on the rumor Nanis is still alive. Kurou takes Saki to dinner, as Kotoko is still asleep suffering from mental exhaustion. He explains that Rika is desperate to be human again, and sought a medical solution in the hospital, but is now attempting to use her power to create a creature capable of turning her human. He worries this is impossible as Rika was always a little monstrous even before eating yokai flesh, yet he isn't worried because Kotoko considers it her duty to stop her. Kurou admits he is worried Kotoko keeps putting herself in danger, which is why he first tried to deal with Nanis without her. But now Rika knows Kotoko will try to stop her, it is possible Rika will try to kill her. Saki returns home, confident she will never see Kurou again, and happy someone is keeping the yokai world in order. Kotoko wakes up irritated she left Kurou alone with Saki for a day and a half. In the end they decide to keep an eye out for Rika, but first plan to spend time with Kotoko's parents, while Kotoko continues in her role as Goddess of Wisdom. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss new video updates. Take care.